You do not have to cock the hammer back to shoot this gun. It'll shoot in double action for the first round. After it shoots that first round, it's going to extract the spent round, load another round in, and now you're in single action. So what that means is there's only one action. Hammer's just going forward. All right, so that's kind of nice. What I don't personally like about this is that the safety it's a very intentional movement. There's no getting it off quick. If you're in a hurry, your palms are sweaty, God forbid you got blood on your hands or anything else like that, I could see that being difficult. Because it's not just a up or down, it's a swing motion to get it off. So for a concealed carry, I mean, God forbid you've already been hit. Like I said, you've already, either by a round or been assaulted, and your mind's not exactly there. I could see myself doing this, trying to get a round out without knowing. That's why I don't like guns with those active thumb safeties for a carry. And if they do have an active safety for a carry gun, I don't use them. So I don't mind this gun for a carry gun, but those are the reasons I don't like it. So I want to show you as well on the 1911. This also has a thumb safety, but I'm trying not to flag myself. It does not decock the weapon. All it does is put it on safe. I like this a heck of a lot better than the safety on that FEG. Because of that, it's really easy to get off safety. Even if you're out of it, anything like that, it's not a big intentional motion. It's really easy. Bad side, it's also really easy to get off safe. So you've got to train with it. You've got to work with it. Make sure you understand how the weapon works. So right now, let's assume that there's a magazine in. There's not, but let's assume there's a magazine in. The weapon is loaded, round in the chamber, ready to shoot, and you don't want to carry it cocked. All right, there's not a decock on this weapon. There's no button that takes the hammer down safely. You have to manually depress or press both safeties, pull the trigger, and then walk the hammer home. Now, I don't care how many times you've done it, it can happen to anybody to where that happens. You're trying to decock it and oh shit, and then the hammer goes home. Just like anything else, it takes training and caution. It's very rare that I decock this gun. I would never have a round in the chamber and it decocked because there's no double action. This is a single action only gun, which means it will only fire when the hammer is to the rear. I like that for that reason. I don't like double action guns. If I was going to carry something double action that's going to be slow to the shot for me, I'd carry a revolver. The reason I don't like double action is, for one, there's too much that's got to happen for that gun to go off for me. It's the same reason I don't particularly care for revolvers, especially hammerless revolvers. If you've got to pull that trigger so hard that you've got to cock it with enough energy and then bring it back down, I found that you're going to do this before the shot goes off. For example, all right, so this weapon, let's say it's loaded. You had it in your bag, decocked, everything like that. To pull this trigger on this gun, now obviously with a positive grip and good purchase on the weapon, it's not going to move, but you can see it moving in my hand. Just right here for the example. Whereas this pistol here, and this one here got a really decent trigger job on it. As long as you have exceptional marksmanship training and good purchase on the weapon, it doesn't move when I go to pull the trigger. Now, bad habits are going to make every shooter like that anticipate the shot and lunge at it, or wince or anything like that, and that just takes range time and good principles. But and this can be mastered too, to where you don't bounce the gun. But in my opinion, I think you're far more likely when you're excited, whenever you need that weapon, to pull the trigger one way or another. It's not to say that there's not a lot of experts out there that can run pistols or revolvers, or any other mix of breed of weapons and be extremely accurate and extremely effective in a firefight. Those are just my opinions. Glock makes a hell of a line of pistols, but they're all very similar to where they don't have an active thumb safety. These are, once you get purchase on the weapon, you can shoot it. And by purchase, I mean once you get it in your hands, you can shoot it. I do believe Smith & Wesson M&P line has an actual thumb safety or a crossbolt safety to keep that from firing when it's stored. But it's got with it the same negatives that anything else does. If you got to shoot it, somebody's coming after you, bad guys coming after you or your family, and you've got to get that weapon into action. It's just one more thing to remember to shoot. So that's why I found with an exceptional holstering platform, in the waist, out the waist, ankle, chest rig, whatever. If it's stored correctly, any holster is going to cover your trigger group. Any holster worth of shit is going to cover your trigger group. And so that weapon's not going to go off unless you have severely, I can't even think of poor maintenance causing it. You'd have to go in there and manipulate the weapon in a way that it disengages one of these safeties permanently. And for the novice pistol owner, wet firearms owner, that's not going to happen. You got to go out of your way to screw this up. That's my opinion. Also, it's always good to have a backup. Not everything calls for you to pull out a firearm to ward off an enemy. Whether you're right or wrong, if you shoot somebody with a concealed carry weapon, you're going to jail. That's just going to happen until everything gets sorted out. Good pocket knife is a cheapie, about $30 at Walmart, something like that, just to have in your bag. Plus, it's good just to have a knife. And there's some other less lethal alternatives to using a firearm to defend yourself against would-be attackers. So that's the basic 3 breeds that I have in my safe right now. Just for the record, I'm a big fan of the Striker Fire polymer pistols that are out today. All the big manufacturers make them. You don't have to cheap out with some no-name manufacturer. They come already with a lot of neat options. I'll step aside here to show you. It's got a fiber optic front sight, which helps in low light situations. It comes with ambidextrous magazine drop, which means you can drop the magazine from either side. They look really damn cool. They're extremely reliable. I've got the full-size model of this upstairs, which is my first concealed carry. It's an XD 45. I've probably got 4,000 rounds through it, and it's never failed me. Obviously, there's situations where you put junk ammo in it and stuff, and it'll double feed or jam or something like that. But for the most part, these guns have always fired when I pulled the trigger, as long as I keep them maintained, keep them clean. Keep them stored when concealed in a correct location, and I don't get bubblegum wrappers and shit inside of it. They runs really well. There's also alternatives that are none of the guns I listed. There's the Derringer option, single shot, 2-shot, 4-shot pistols that typically carry in small calibers like 22 Magnum. They do make some pretty cool stuff out there now that's chambered in like 45 Colt or 410. 38 special, all kinds of different options. But as far as the main 2 that you probably considered between a revolver, semi-automatic pistol, hammeredless, anything like that, that's kind of your options. One big feature that I'd like to mention about the polymer guns now, this is a single stack gun, which means that it's designed to carry 1 stack of ammo. I regret not bringing it now, but they also make this same exact gun. It's the same platform in a double stack, which means that instead of 7 rounds, you carry 14. So imagine this magazine stacked side by side, and it's not as wide as it sounds and not as uncomfortable to carry as people might think, but you can carry a lot more ammo. 7 rounds is fine for me, especially if you carry spare magazines, as you should carry spare magazines. Most, and I don't know the exact statistics, most person-to-person firearm engagements as a result of self-defense happen within 5 yards of each other, and it happens quick. It's not a great big shootout where you're standing behind a car like the old Dragnet movies. It's 1-2 shots, it's over. So that's why it's important for me to be able to get a gun out, get it in action quick, and go. I don't need to mess with safeties. I don't need to worry about cocking it, racking around, anything like that. If I'm going to carry concealed, it's because I have to assume that someone's going to come after me. And based on what statistics have told us, there's no warning, there's no start line, finish line, anything like that. It happens quick and it happens violently. So it's important to be able to get that gun out and get it in action quick. And dealing with things like not carrying loaded with an empty chamber, so that you have to rack it before you get into the fight, having to take your safety off whenever you're excited, whenever your adrenaline's pumping, whenever you've possibly already been injured, dealing with stuff like that. And then the second action, whenever you have to run a double action gun, being able to actually get on the gun and pull the trigger hard enough to get the action to cycle without pulling off targets hard. But again, like I said, most interactions happen within 5 yards. So from me to the camera, you'd have to pull it pretty hard to get off the target. So lots of things to consider. When I say the big major brands, Smith & Wesson, Glock, Springfield, they make all variations of all of these. Taurus is a little bit lower end. They're all right. As far as 1911s, everybody makes them. Colt still has some for sale. Springfield has some for sale. Remington has some for sale. Caspian's a really good shop. Just all kinds. Kimber Customs, they make the Federal model that's really small, that fits well inside your waist or inside of a bag, and are all extremely reliable. The good thing about the gun industry is it doesn't suffer weak manufacturers, so if it's a bad gun, it'll stop selling. So there's not a lot of junk out there for very long. If it's cheap, it's cheap. That's typically the case. If you see a gun that's got a great deal for $100, $120, you're getting a $120 gun. I like to spend a little bit more when it comes to defending my life and the life of the people around me. So, yeah, that's it. That little 5-minute video turned into 25, but hope it works for you.